Well, hello again. It's been a day or two since I worked on this dash. Every day I wanted to get back out here, something came up. I got a phone call for this and a phone call for that. Anyway, today's Friday, and we need to get the rest of this dash all disconnected. Sunday is when James is coming over, and he's going to help me lift it out of here. So we've got to get these wires disconnected. We got a bunch of plugs under here that we need to disconnect. And there's a couple of single wire plugs underneath that also come out of that same bundle. They just need to be disconnected and hang down. And then there's a couple of bolts up here in the center through that hole I'll show you. And there might even be another one on this side, another one on the other. I don't know. It'll be way over there behind the speedometer mess, and one over here. I don't know. We'll work on that after we disconnect this. And on the other side, down at the bottom, we also have another connector with a couple of other wires that have to be disconnected also. A ground, I think, and a ground here. You just got to kind of eyeball it. Just note that the red one, there's a black one here. The red one and the black one side by side, they do have to be disconnected. For those of you who have been around in the beginning, since the beginning, you knew that the plugs inside the car that ran back to the taillights, I had the same problem. Couldn't get them out loose. So I had to use a heat gun, which is what I'm going to do again. You got to heat these things up and get them softer. Now I did put a metal plate behind there to protect the wires and whatever else is back there. So it's just a matter of heating it up. Without melting it or burning it, okay? Alright, that mess is disconnected, the two reds and the two blacks. And the way you do that, after you heat it with a heat gun, you reach up here, put a pair of pliers on one this way, and then put a pair of pliers on the other one, same type of position, like that. Then you just wiggle both of them back and forth, lengthways. The lengthways of the plug back and forth and pull apart. And if it won't come apart after you've done it a few times, heat it again. Just got to keep heating it a little at a time until they finally decide to pop loose. The ignition switch had to be disconnected. Keep in mind that there's a ground wire on that thing too, right there. So we'll push that baby on through there. This is the light for the ignition switch, I believe. It does light up. I ripped down the paper that was covering the bottom of the speaker hole. Apparently I never had a speaker, so they just put paper over it. This black crap down here, it's pulled right off. Some kind of a keep the air from blowing up, I guess. I don't know. Don't care. Anyway, the bolt I'm talking about, the two bolts, are one right there, that gray in that black bracket, and the other one is over there on that, where the heck is it? Right there, on that black bracket, right there. Well, let me get them out, and hopefully the dash will come loose. Alright, those two bolts are out. They were 7/16, a rather small head. Anyway, the dash is loose over here, but for something else has it right here, and I can't see it up underneath. So, against my druthers, I thought I could get away without removing the steering wheel, but I'm going to have to get it out of there to get this instrument cluster out. What a bummer. Why do they make it so difficult? Well, the nut is off, and we got to take out these two screws right here. Make sure your steering wheel is straight, your wheels are straight on the front of the car. Get this off of here, and then there's a couple more underneath, and then I'll have to get a wheel puller or something and put the bolts in this hole and pull the baby off. You know, on the internet, these guys that took these dashes out of these 66 Thunderbirds, it was like 5 or 6 steps and it came out. Wrong! I don't know where, they must have left out about 80% of what we need to do. Alright, the screws are out. That should be just a horn ring. And it is. What the heck is this? Another spring fell out? Well, that's wonderful. Don't you just love it when pieces and parts fall out on you? Well, behind the horn ring thing, you'll see 2 screws. One there, and the other one is right there. One holds the black wires on, and the other one holds the yellow. Take them out, and the horn ring should come loose with the wires. Well, the horn ring is off, and of course one more piece fell out of it. But at least I now know where the spring goes. Show you that here in a second. The spring goes between these two blades here around that thing right there. And then this thing here compresses down on the spring and connects it. It's the cap that holds the spring in is what it is. I don't know. No wonder the horn didn't work on one side, so I don't know. Looks like it's already been sprung out. It's not gonna go back. I'll give you the other view on the other one. See, this is what it looks like when it's all in. Well, my rechargeable LED light finally ran out of power over the top of the roof here. But anyway, once I removed that horn ring and everything, there was a piece of weird looking wire laying down in there. Let me get a little zoom in here. I don't know what that is. Kind of weird looking. I'm sure it goes to something. I better keep it. I don't know what it is. Alright, let me see if I can find my wheel puller. If not, I'm going to call it a day and we'll come out tomorrow, which is Friday, and that'll be the last hurrah, my last chance. Well, lucky me, I found my wheel puller. However, the bolts I have are coarse thread. Of course they're coarse thread. Because the holes here are fine thread. I've looked all over. I don't have any fine thread bolts that'll work there. So it's back to the hardware store in the morning. Well, we now have the right bolts for our wheel puller. Now, a little bit of note for those that have never used a wheel puller or don't know much about it. Usually your wheel pullers for your steering wheels look pretty much like this, you know. But there are various types of wheel pullers. Make sure you get the right one. And just when you go down to buy it, talk to people, ask them. When you put these bolts in, especially in the steering wheel, make sure you bottom them out. Bottom the bolts out. If you only go down 2 or 3 threads and then try to pull the steering wheel, you'll wind up pulling the threads right out of the hole. And then you're screwed. Then you go ahead and put this thing on top and adjust it down to where it's tight. That thing right there, is tight against the center threaded hub of the wheel. And then it's just a matter of holding the wheel straight with one hand and then taking your ratchet and going like that, and it'll pull that wheel right off that shaft. I'll tell you what, this thing is pretty crudded up. This is the back of the steering wheel hub. Caked up grease and dirt mixed all together with it. Yeah, not as bad as it could be though, but it's not as much as I'd like. It'll be a lot of cleaning here. This is going to be a learning experience. I took one out of a 57 Chevy one time. It wasn't anywhere near as complicated as this. You gotta understand, this is all new territory for me. I've never torn apart a Thunderbird dash before. I've looked at lots of pictures, and I'll tell you what, without the help of Nick Pepe and what he did on his channel showing how the dash was put together on the inside and all that stuff, it's helped a great deal, especially where the plugs were and where I had to disconnect them and everything. Everybody else's job of showing how to get this out just did not measure up. So let me see what I can do with these last 2 plugs. I'll tell you what, I'm running out of steam here. The plug is unplugged from the light switch. It's hanging down back there, and then it's like this. There's a Y. One goes to the light switch, the other one goes to the cable bundle on the firewall. So you unplug them both, they just both hang down. That's all. And it was a lot easier than I expected, actually. But if they're up in here, you just got to find the light switch and unplug it, and then you'll see that it goes up to a Y, and then follow the other one out to a black plug. Okay, our last 2 bolts is this one here. There's one just like it on the other side of the steering wheel up in there. So I'll take the first one out here, 1/2 inch. Alright, that's it. I've got her loose. Finally. Now all I have to do is wait for James to come over. The next video I'm going to do a complete recap of what bolts had to come out and where they're located to get this dash out, because I'll tell you what, it was not as easy as people say it is. Well, that's it, folks. James couldn't have done it without me. Anyway, next time we'll go over a better procedure for removing a dash. Now that I see how it went in, everything I did was trial and error because I didn't really have any good guides to go by. There were some, but not really detailed the way I like. So we'll go back over this and I'll show you, I think, a better way to get it out. Make it a whole lot easier. It'll be more detailed. And we'll go over the wiring, show you on each end what had to be unplugged and stuff like that, which is just a rehash of what Nick Pepe did out there at Vintage Thunderbird Repair. But we'll look at it a little bit closer. And then that's about it. So until next time, this is John.